Hello everyone and welcome to the Next Level video game talk show for the month of April this time. Well, a little bit. We're going to jump in back a little bit to talk about the Division 2 as well. We didn't get a chance to talk about that one. And of course, the big game for April, I think, is Mortal Kombat 11. So to help me out today, I'm joined by Jason Westerhouse. And of course, on the other side, Eric Taylor.
Hey.
We had to rope him in to talk about all the blood and guts. So, gentlemen, how are we?
Just wonderful, yeah.
Doing great.
Doing great.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Division 2. So we played all the way through the first one.
Yeah.
The Division 2 is set quite a bit away from the first one, isn't it?
Seems like it, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
quite a bit.
Tell me, what's going on in the Division 2?
Oh, there's a lot. The hyenas running around, causing all kinds of chaos. True Sons. There's a lot. The story's great, obviously, and we'll talk about that. But the White House and the kind of set in Washington D.C. where it kind of in shambles right now, and so it's good working through just kind of like the plague type thing.
So, because in the first game it was all about the dollar flu,
Yep.
And that was kind of like at the epicenter of where it happened.
Yeah.
In the second one, it kind of seems, I think it's 6 months or something like that.
Yep.
It's quite a ways away from that. Is it still kind of like the main focus, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, kind of spreading around and trying to figure out what's going on with it and trying to fix it. Yeah.
And I don't know if I've gotten far enough to see if is Aaron Keener?
Yeah.
Is he still he was the big bad of the
Yeah.
first one, sort
Yeah.
of, kind of. I don't know. So how do you feel about the story, though, going into it? Because
good.
for me, it feels a little less connected, but...
Yeah. There's, and we've talked about it often while we're playing, but it's one of those where you're looking at the story, you're playing through the story, and you're like, wait, how does this connect to the story or the mission that we just did a minute ago? And the side missions are they're more separated from the main mission than the Division 1 was, so it's a little bit weird how they kind of piece that together. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know, I feel like in the first one, the big thing for me was you have your main base, right? And you have we've talked about this before too, of characters who feel more vital to kind of the storytelling and kind of, you remember, I can't remember their names for some reason, but you can remember what they did and kind of what their purpose was.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the characters kind of hit those higher points in the second one as much, or?
There's a lot more, a bigger variety of characters there, so it's kind of hard to separate them out, but there are still some that you kind of you pinpoint on, and like the leader of the settlements, you start to understand their names and things like that. But yeah, the base of operations is the White House, and there's a lot of focus there, but I think a lot of the settlements that you kind of uncover during the story are the main kind of operating bases that you use. So there's less connected into one location where it's kind of spread out in Division 2.
Yeah, and that's something I really enjoy about the second one. So like one of the first things you do is you get to that theater and you start helping out this other settlement that's separate from just like your main base.
Yeah.
And I think one of the cool focuses of the second one is just kind of like how the world seems to be building itself back up or reacting to that. Yeah. Like you've probably seen more of it than I have with these settlements. Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, it seems like it, because you just mentioned it. You unlock the theater, and it's basically nothing. It's just this building, and you have people there. Then you do the side missions. They kind of build parts of the settlement. So, there's a side mission that brings batteries in there, and kind of the greenhouse and the food and stuff like that. You kind of build these side missions to kind of populate the theater or other settlements to kind of full capacity, and kind of bring more people in and kind of get the idea of helping other people and reaching out the people who are affected by the flu. So
yeah, and then I feel like the characters now patrolling and out there, they seem more important than just like people who are sat on the street looking for a candy bar and some water for a jacket.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot less interaction with the random people, like you just mentioned, like, hey, I'm in need, and you give them a water and they give you a jacket in return. So yeah, there's a lot less that, but there are, like you mentioned, people from the settlements going out and getting components and kind of those things that they need to water and food and kind of get those for the settlement. So you can interact with them too, and you can intercept them and give them food and water, so they don't have to walk as far, I guess the point of it is. But
See, and I haven't not run into someone where I've gone and like given them something.
Yeah.
The one time we played the other day, I was like, why? Oh yeah, I guess I should give this guy nuts and bolts or whatever he's asking for.
yeah, components. Yeah, and there's locations throughout the map, and I don't know if you've seen it, but there's little dots throughout the map, and they're either green, red, or gray. And that's interesting too, because you go there and you collect those items that they're looking for, whether it's water or components. And so a lot of the times you go to one of those locations and it will be red because it's being run by hyenas, and you might kill a bunch of them and then steal all of their components or whatever it is, the resource. And then sometimes you'll see people from the settlement, good guys there, and then you can even give them directly the resource, and then they can head back to the settlement.
Yeah, and then there's like all those like donation for like, I was gonna say shoes, but, but I guess that's probably part of it, like giving them like vests and all that kind of stuff that
the projects.
Yeah, projects, there we go.
Yep, yeah, there's a number of projects, and it's kind of nice because it's separated by area of the map as well. So you start off, with the theater district, I forget what it's called, and then the East Mall and all that, and they have different project sets. So there's, like you said, you might donate a backpack or gloves or knee pads or whatever, and then do a couple missions or do the shield caches or SHD caches, right?
Oh, Shade Tech.
Shade Tech, yes.
The game is very about its Shade Tech.
Yes, need to get that correct.
Is it shady?
It's SHD, what is it?
SHD, yeah.
Something, I can't remember what it stands for.
Yeah, they call it Shade Tech, but that's,
But like every mission is, hey, did you find that box of Shade Tech? Oh, we gotta go get the Shade Tech cache.
Yeah. Yep, so that's how you build the projects, and then you get rewards from the projects. Mostly it's blueprints that you can use to kind of build new either components for your gun or or armor and things like that.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, because I think one of the big changes for this game is that you're not finding like scopes, and you're not finding barrels and stuff like that. You're not finding pieces for your equipment, attachments to your guns. Instead, they're a perk tree.
Kind of, yeah. There's the perk is all different now. So you have, like you said, you might loot a box that's randomly generated throughout the world. And in Division 1, you'd have like a red dot, we'll say. And then in Division 2, like you said, you unlock this perk tree. And the first one is a red dot, the second one is like a reflex scope, and the third is like a ACOG, right?
Right.
And then those are actually the only 3 scopes that you get from perks. And then you actually blueprint it out to get the other ones. So.
Okay. Because then it would be like the 4X, 8X, stuff like that?
Yep. Yeah. So just the other day I unlocked a 8X. So I went to the crafting station in the White House and built up that blueprint. So and used that. So.
And then now the skills there's a lot more skills in this game.
Yeah, there are. And it's kind of those, it's definitely different. And it's either good or bad, depending on if you really like Division 1. But yeah, like I used the pulse in Division 1, and that might have been overpowered because it'd get this huge range and tell you where everybody was. Yeah, right?
And get like damage bonus. Right?
Yep, you'd get a damage bonus, and I think a buff to your team as well.
Okay.
I think it was a slight, if there are any. But this one, the pulse is, from here to the wall, right? It's 15, 20 feet. It's not very far, and there's no buff that, or damage that you get with those. So it's a little bit different, but then you can unlock things too, and you get, you'll find different components that add to it. So I have a seeker mine, and you might get a different motor, and then you can actually use that in there. So it's kind of, you have the skill of the seeker mine where it can roll out and explode people, and then there's different types of the seeker mine as well that you can unlock, and then in each type you can unlock the different components to actually improve it. So
it seems like there's a lot more layers on Division 2.
Yeah, we're not terribly far yet, so there's still a lot to learn, I think, but it's kind of weird how you might connect some of those, like, okay, I have this much skill power and I can choose this component to add to. So it's kind of weird, but yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and then I guess gameplay wise it feels pretty much the same, but you were doing a lot of comparisons to the Division 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, just tell me about that.
Yeah, there were quite a bit. So first of all, the movement seems a lot better in Division 2.
Okay.
Like like the roll, that's awesome. We use that constantly. That's one of the things that Division 2 is awesome at. And then the vaulting over things, that seems a lot more smooth, I think, in Division 2.
Yeah, a lot more fluid.
Yeah, fluid. And then as well as there's a sweet hood slide that you can do. So you got to make sure to do that. And that looks really, really nice too.
We have done many hood slides. It's been fun.
Yeah. But yeah, so comparing directly to Division 1, I think the biggest complaint that I have is with the sniper, with the 8X, 12X, and 15X scopes. When you pull up to the ADS, right, you typically have the third person, because Division 2 and Division 1 are both third person. You expect to kind of see the crosshairs really in over the shoulder kind of look.
Yeah.
Whereas and then in Division 1, you'd click the right joystick, and it would click into the scope. And that doesn't happen, right? In Division 2, it goes right to the scope, so it might be kind of confusing, and it's nice to be able to just kind of over the shoulder every once in a while. So.
Yeah, like take a pot shot with a big rifle.
Yep. So you can still do that with a 4X or the ACOG that they call that, which that's what I've kind of been reverting to all my rifles is back to that, so I can do the over the shoulder and zoom in a little bit. But yeah, that was the biggest. It's kind of annoying. It's one of those things. It could be good, could be bad. It depends on your preference. But. Yeah. Another thing is the pulling off the pistol. In Division 1, it was pretty quick, where you could, run out of ammo in your assault rifle and quick switch to your pistol. Here, it's a little bit delayed in Division 2. It's actually as fast to switch to your secondary weapon as it is to swich to your pistol.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Yep.
It's kind of like defeats the purpose. Of the
right.
pistol,
Yeah.
I
It's
feel
like why do I have this pistol?
Yeah.
And like I said, it kind of like the whole animation is still there, where it puts the main gun away and then grabs the pistol. And I think in Division 1 it was just a lot faster. And I did a direct comparison, and you can definitely tell.
Very noticeable.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So how do you feel about the setting of Washington D.C. as opposed to like the wintry New York?
Yeah. I think it's trying to get a little political without actually, but it's definitely some hints in there that I want it to be political. But
well, I saw that there was a sign or like a flag or something that was out there that had some kind of like derogatory terms and stuff on there. So they've kind of like messing with that stuff a little bit, like, oh, let's erase this one, or let's just change this a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little strange like that.
But did you do the mission where you have to go grab the Declaration of Independence?
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, that's interesting. And there's a portrait of Benjamin Franklin. I think you have to get in one side mission too. Yes, it's strange.
There's a bunch of
things
just like people stole art and they decided they were just going to put it next to this porta potty, and you pick it up and go, great, we did it, we saved America.
Yeah. A lot of cool little things, I guess. Yeah, but that's interesting as well. Yeah, it's definitely weird to think that it's in Washington, D.C.
But I like that and I think the big praise for the game that I keep hearing, and one that I agree with, is that the level design and kind of the setting of the world is more fun to interact with.
Yeah.
It's a little less, straight roads, and like the interiors feel a little bit more robust.
Yeah. It's interesting because they took out basically they took out the looting of apparel.
Yeah, that's true.
And like you mentioned earlier, like the attachments to your gun, they took those out. But they still have a lot of loot opportunity, and it's kind of getting things that might help the settlements, like shoes, kids' shoes, lunch boxes, calculators, which I still haven't seen how you use those yet, but you collect them.
There you go.
And then a lot of components and material for crafting, like you get a lot of those. So there's a lot of those loot opportunities, and there's a lot of boxes around that you can loot boxes and stuff. But yeah, you can go into a random building, and like there's one room you shoot a lock and you go in and there's nothing but one backpack in the room to loot from. But it's a lot more polished on the inside of those different buildings.
Yeah, overall I think like Division 2, especially, Division 2 came right after Anthem, which was like the other, I'm gonna put quotes on here for loot shooter. Because I think like Anthem kind of missed the mark, or at least didn't explain how their loot works and all that. And Division 2 came in, it was like polished out of the gate.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, we we got this right and this right and this right, and the loot's fantastic, and we made adjustments like pretty fast. Like with the, we're talking about attachments, and attachments used to be one positive and always one negative, and now it's just a positive. We realize this is a pain.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think like overall it's been a very polished experience. And one thing I wanted to hit on too was that, so there's all these different world events in this game now. And that's kind of the big thing for this genre of loot shooter is having these events happen randomly. Like hyenas are just like, oh, there's a, I don't know, you'd shoot a flare up and
control point.
take out control points. And it just seems like there's a lot more life in this game.
Yeah, there's propaganda messages and like executions and stuff that you can intercept. Yeah, and the control points, territory controls. There's a lot of things that you can do. And it's not just a one-time thing. Like you might go there one day and do it, and then you're on a couple days later and notice that it's overrun again and go do it again. So that's pretty cool. It kind of keeps you active in the main storyline. Not to even mention after story when you get into the world tiers. So
yeah, and they've got all I think the big plus of this game's DLC is absolutely free. They're doing no season pass for any of the content coming out, and I think they just launched the first like end game content. So
that's
very
interesting.
exciting.
Yeah, it'll be nice to get to.
And I like that the multiplayer seems like it is extremely fluid. Like you shoot up the flare and anyone can join in where you're at, or you can join anyone's game like a click of a button.
Yeah. I mean, it gets kind of annoying hearing an agent needs your help.
That's a fair
but
point.
which you can turn it off to just friends. But yeah, it is. I mean, like you've done it before. You said where you'll get that call and you'll jump in and help them out. And I haven't done that yet. I like to play by myself or with a friend. But that's really cool. And then when you have differences in levels, before you just get I think it was in Division 1 it was the highest level.
Yeah, in the first one it was playing multiplayer. If you weren't playing
tough.
at the same time, it was bad. Because it'd be like, oh, you're level 10, I'm level 5, everything's level 10.
Yeah.
And now it's at least gonna...
Yeah, it evens it out a little bit. I think it puts, when we were playing the other day, I think it put you like one level behind me.
Yeah.
And then it raised your stats, right? So your gun and damage and stuff. So
Yep.
That's really nice. And then of course the Dark Zone.
Of course the Dark Zone.
The Division 1 Dark Zone you didn't want to go into until you were 30 with all kinds of great weapons, because you would just get annihilated by people going rogue and stealing your loot, and there was just, not to mention the NPCs were really hard. And now they separate out. It's not just one Dark Zone, different areas. It's 3 separate Dark Zones where they have different things that you can do, and one's like all just NPCs, and you can join it, and the normalization they call it is kind of evening all those guns and levels and stuff out. So not when somebody tries to go rogue on you, you have a defense now, and that's nice. So
and I like that they tutorialize that too. So like the first time you go into the Dark Zone, it's kind of explaining what it is and what it's about and how to extract everything out. And I think it's great that they will always have, between the 3, it sounds like 2 will always be NPCs. You don't have to go shoot people. You can go get a box or hunt items down, but the 1 will be occupied by other players. So you can always avoid it if you don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, of course. And that was always like that end game. Like when we got to level 30 in Division 1, you're like, okay, well now I have to go to the Dark Zone, right? And it's kind of like, well, I don't really want to, just die to people who have better stuff than me, that play more than me, so it's nice that they actually separate that out.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing a lot more Division 2 when I, focus and do it. But speaking of all this murdering and killing, Eric, we've got to talk about the gory games of Mortal Kombat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, what do you want to know?
I want to know a lot. So, Mortal Kombat 11, let's kick it off with this. So, Mortal Kombat 11 they took a lot of like, oh boy, I don't know about this gore, like it might be too much. Like, how do you feel about people reacting to the game that forced everyone's hand to create the ESRB, the Electronic Software's rating board, like to start rating games because of how gory it was, and now we're like a ton of games in, and people are like, I don't know about these guts coming out of this man.
Well, usually we didn't have the guts coming out of the man, so it was kind of new to see in, I believe it was Mortal Kombat X, where you really started to see the
Like innards.
the innards, the intestines. So
Not just like 100 femurs shooting
Yeah.
out of someone's body.
yeah, pretty much, or 100 skulls.
Yeah.
And so I will say there are times where I go, ooh, that might have been a little too far. But other than that, it's just a game, and there's going to be people that are going to be upset with some of the stuff that's in it. But I personally haven't seen anything that I haven't seen in other games that have been much, much worse.
Like, do you feel like it's pushing the, kind of like towing the line a little bit for its like violence in these like big attacks and finishers and stuff? Or does it feel kind of in line for Mortal Kombat?
It feels like a Mortal Kombat game to me. I mean, there's nothing that's... If you're going to buy Mortal Kombat, you know what you're going to be going into. You don't. It's not like you're buying
Barbie's horse riding adventure.
or Hello Kitty Islands Adventure.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a mature rating on the game for a reason.
Yeah. And I feel like if you're blindsided by Mortal Kombat, I don't know. You probably should have known. You probably should have known. Read the back. It says like definitely going to be dismemberment in this game.
And a few other things, but
Yeah.
it's to be expected.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, just with all the hyper violence and all that kind of stuff, it feels over the top in a way that doesn't. I mean, I could see someone being squeamish, right? But it feels like this is so over the top and dumb. Like I can't really be mad about it.
I mean, there's one where, and this one's been shown, where Noob Saibot forces himself into you through
His
mystical
ghostly-
powers,
Yeah.
and then he comes out and rips you apart from the mouth this way.
Oh wow.
And it's done so ridiculously that you can't help but have that awkward laugh.
Doesn't Johnny Cage have one where he does the same? Or here's Johnny, or was that the last game?
That was the last
Oh,
game,
okay.
but yeah, his is actually pretty funny too.
Oh,
which,
it's great.
there's a couple of them that he has that are pretty great. So it's Mortal Kombat. It's going to be over the top. It's going to be ridiculous, and part of the charm is to be so ridiculous that you have a little chuckle or laugh, and then feel awkward about yourself.
It's one of the, it's one of those things where you have like it's not even a finishing move. It'll be like one of their fatal blows or something in the game, and like I think I saw the one for Kung Lao today where he throws his like saw blade hat out and he shoves someone into it and like basically chopping them up, and then like, oh, I slit your throat with it and all this kind of crazy stuff, and they're like, blood, but then like, all right, let's keep fighting. Like it just doesn't seem to have, like, oh, my eye got poked out, but I got to keep fighting here, and it doesn't seem to faze them afterwards.
And they don't have that weird cut from the blade just 2 seconds ago.
Right.
And they're perfectly functional. I mean, one of them, they'll get their eyes shot between right here. I mean,
Yeah.
they're still going at it. Just shows you the dedication of these fighters.
Right. Well, they are fighting for all of Earthrealm or something. I don't know. Like, tell me about the story. How about that? Because the story in these games, like, because of how well they've been, at least like from 9 on, has kind of changed the spectrum for where expectations are for fighting games in general. Like Street Fighter V launched without a story at first, and the whole world lit on fire and said, kill the beast. So like Mortal Kombat kind of holds the standard, I guess, in storytelling in fighting games.
Basically, I will agree that Mortal Kombat has a very unique story, and it makes you play all the characters, but it's very expansive. You get to explore each of the characters. You get to see their personalities. You get to see them grow over time.
Yeah.
And with other games, it's just, hi, I'm running into Tiffany in a mall. I'm going to fight her. And that's DOA.
Okay, I was gonna ask, like, who's Tiffany? Why is she at the mall?
But I mean, basically it's just in DOA story, hey, they run into each other. They got to fight in DOA. Whereas Mortal Kombat, they push for the reason that these people are fighting and who has a grudge against this person, and who's going to be the wild card that interrupts everything.
And so in this one, it's like a big story about time manipulation, right? Or not necessarily time travel.
What it is Raiden has finally pissed off the wrong god,
Okay.
And
Because like he's also a god, right? He's an elder god?
Raiden is just what you would call a god. There's the elder gods, and then there's Chronica, who is above them. And she is the crafter of time, basically. And she has a destiny for each and every person, and Raiden has messed with time and what she has planned. And so she comes into the scene trying to either fix time or just get rid of Raiden.
Okay.
And basically,
So this is like the story dealing with Raiden going rogue in a sense?
it's actually more of her story where she's showing, hey, this is what I have planned. You've meddled with time, and now I'm going to rewrite time, but I need time to fix it.
And so this kind of sets the stage for having classic Mortal Kombat characters and the new Mortal Kombat characters kind of intertwine. What's the word?
Intertwining.
There we go. Yeah, I was intertwining and mingling together. I don't know.
So in order to rewrite time, like I said, she needs time to make sure she's not disturbed. So she brings back, let's see here, Scarlet, Young, Aaron Black, Kano, Shao Kahn.
Okay.
And then you also have Young Liu Kang, Katana, Kung Lao, Jade, and then also brings back Young Raiden before the events transpired in Mortal Kombat 9. And so it leaves them wondering what's going on, and then you're trying to follow them and see how they feel about their future and how they might be affected by that and why they might want to try to alter history.
And so I guess a couple questions on this. So that probably ties into, because every character has an alternate ending that's like Jack's going back in time and ending certain slavery events?
Yes. Well, basically that is the tower matches.
Oh, okay.
Each character you can fight in the tower, and they'll have a specific ending to their character after they beat Chronica.
Okay.
In the story, there is a set path of who's going to defeat Chronica, and it's just finding out who it is and how they're going to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I like that Mortal Kombat, and even what NetherRealm did with Injustice, is they have a story they're telling you, and it just hops in between the different characters along the way that you get to control and play. So I think that's really neat. But another thing I wanted to ask about the time stuff is, does this now, what I've kind of heard and have not confirmed, does this now say that basically Mortal Kombat 9, 10, and 11 are like, because they've been kind of treated as like a soft reboot of the franchise, but is it like the new J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies where these games exist as the reboot, but the other games still exist in a different timeline, if that makes sense?
They do exist in another timeline.
That's super cool.
Trust me, there's some stuff that happens in this game that really makes you wonder what happened in the past before that. So there's some cool little Easter eggs and spoilers of previous Mortal Kombats, what might have happened. So, because you didn't have that story prior to Mortal Kombat 9. You didn't have that detailed story. You had little snippets here and there, but you didn't have the full story mode where 9 started it and then they continued it.
You did get the movie a long time ago, though.
That movie was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
I will say, speaking on that, Mortal Kombat and Silent Hill, those are like the 2 top video game movies in my opinion. Those are pretty good.
Yes, I agree fully on that. Those are the top 2.
I'll still complain though that at one point Shang Tsung says flawless victory, but that person got hit like 100 times. That was not flawless, buddy. Speaking of that movie, that's a great segue because he's in the game, right?
Yes, I can't remember the name of the actor, but the actor who played Shang Tsung is in Mortal Kombat 11. He is the first DLC character.
Oh, okay.
And he has the face, but he's in a more older Shang Tsung appearance.
Okay.
Like you would see in Mortal Kombat 9. But supposedly, in theory, we are getting the actual film version
That is cool.
of Shang Tsung.
Nice.
There's 3 universes of Mortal Kombat. The one good movie and the terrible movie, and then the games.
There was no terrible second movie.
Oh, there was just the one movie?
Just the one
didn't
movie.
even know.
History rewrote itself.
Yeah.
See, Chronica got rid of that.
Thanks, yeah. Chronica did a great job. So let's talk about the roster for a minute, because I know this is like the big sticking point for you as like one of the biggest Mortal Kombat fans I know. Like, how are you feeling about that? Because I looked at it a little bit today, and I was like, it kind of seems like half old, half new from like Mortal Kombat, maybe 9 and 10 a little bit.
All fan favorites.
He says with a smirk.
Basically, there are 3 new characters. Centurion, who is an elder god who has the ability of not only plants, but earth, wind, and fire, and water. Yeah, she needs to pick a style, but she's actually pretty cool. She has a lot of, her attacks move fluidly to where you use the fire attacks, and you use the water attacks, and you use the rock attacks. And she does some really cool combos. She's actually a really cool character. Then the other one is Garrus, who has more of a time-shifting, Sands of Time type attacks. So 1 second he'll be using like these sand ground attacks like Tremor, and then he'll be flipping back time to put you in a different spot to attack you, which is kind of cool. And then the other one is the Collector, which at first I would compare him to General Grievous, Avatar, and Gollum having a child. And
I don't even know what that looks like. I apparently need to see this character.
well, he has 6 arms,
Okay.
2 of which are holding his backpack, which he collects things. And then apparently it's a magic sack because he can put a lot of stuff in there. And then he basically has the other 4 arms as a very savage attack. Some people said that his attacks are kind of like scarecrows in Injustice 2.
Okay.
But it's more, I think he's more savage than that. I mean, yeah, there's some similarities, but he is very vicious character like Baraka, which at first I was very skeptical of his character, but he has definitely grown on me, and he's becoming a fan favorite.
Oh, see, they're going to get you. They're going to get you to love all of them, Eric.
And then as far as returning characters, we have all the characters from Mortal Kombat X.
Who survived.
Who survived, pretty much. But there's also some returning characters we haven't seen since Mortal Kombat 9 or even before that.
Okay.
We have Noob Saibot, which that was a poll with Noob Saibot, Baraka, Rain, and Cabal. And Noob Saibot,
almost all of them.
Noob Saibot was the winner. Second place was Rain. And then Cabal and Baraka.
Okay.
So second place didn't make it, but Cabal is fantastic. Noob Saibot plays like Noob Saibot should. I mean, he plays like he did in Mortal Kombat Deception, where he would send his shadow after you,
Yeah.
or actually it was Smoke in that game. And then in Mortal Kombat 9, it was his shadow that he would send to beat you up and free you through the teleport or the warp portals and stuff like that. And he's a lot of people. The only thing I can say about him is his voice actor. There's only 2 voice actors in the game, and his comes off as a Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. And I'm expecting him.
You right in.
And pretty much he does sound like that, yes.
So, speaking of the other one, I'm sure you're going to get to her. How do we feel about Ronda Rousey in this? That bad, apparently.
She tries.
Does she?
I'll put it this way. There is one line in there that makes my eyes roll every time I hear it. But other than that, I mean, there's a scene in the beginning where I thought she did very well. When she's talking with some of the fighters in her intro when you're about to fight, there's some hits and misses. There's times where I can tell she's just reading off a piece of paper and not putting emotion into it, where every voice actor, again with Noob Saibot, it kind of
He's your boy.
Yeah. I'll put it this way. the one line that makes my eyes roll back in the head and acting lessons would have helped is, that's what my dad used to always call me.
Called me Private Pumpkin.
Oh boy, that's just cringeworthy in general.
Yeah, it's annoying.
It's her dialogue reminds me of some of the original Resident Evil
Oh,
dialogue.
that's a statement, Eric.
I mean, I feel like Barry Burton worthy.
Oh boy.
So yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, she's trying, but
I will say though, I mean, that's a good point though, because like, I think a lot of people, like even when they complain about voice acting in games, it's like, you don't realize there's skill even on like a basic level of just like, I'm a normal guy talking to division agents, you know, like that, as we mentioned, like that's the guy from Ghost Recon, but at least like his inflections, the way that he speaks the sentences, you know, it works, it fits. And you can tell there's a skill achieved there where you can tell when someone like Ronda Rousey would be like, all right, you elder gods, I'm coming for you. I can't remember her wrestling move, but pretend that's what she did.
But
the armbar.
There's a reason David Hayter is Solid Snake. You know, there's a reason why we have voice actors, is because they're able to make that character and give him life. Whereas
I'm like fighting back the urge to just start quoting Metal Gear left and right now. Go ahead.
Yeah. But that's all I have to say about that is she tries, but it definitely impacts how you see the characters. It's like you're in depth, and then when you hear her voice, you're like kind of like you're not low.
It's not on the same level, so it just kind of feels out of place.
Very out of place.
Okay. So, because I know you're not a big fan of like Devora and stuff like that in the game, right? Or because I know you've kind of had mixed feelings about roster and possible DLC entries.
I'll put it this way: is I'm opened up and warmed up to Kotal Khan. They've fixed him up dramatically from his previous. He's still slow, but he's given him a move set that you can work around where he doesn't feel worthless.
Okay.
And he's also a great character to beat up on. So he's one of my characters I like to switch on to 2-player mode and just beat up on him. So.
But they've kind of won you over a little bit. So now that you've gotten your hands on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Devora plays a lot better. She actually moves more like a spider in some sense.
Okay.
So she has more of a creepy vibe, and her fatalities are just disgusting.
They're a little gross.
A little. Just a little.
But it's always interesting, though, in fighting games how, like Street Fighter, it doesn't really have like a storyline for any of this stuff, but there's a story that's always been told throughout the games. Mm-hmm. And so like you play Street Fighter 3 and you're like, oh, well, Street Fighter 3 takes place after Street Fighter 4 or whatever. And it's like, that's why you see these characters in the game instead of other characters in the game. And that's kind of how they explain it. But now in Mortal Kombat, because there is this continuity they're following very outright, I think it's interesting, like, oh, in this game we're going to see these characters because this, you know, like this happened in the last game. And I think that's kind of fun. So I'm glad that they kind of fixed them up a little bit to, you know, fit your standards, because those are important to me.
It's one of those things where even Jackie Briggs was a fan favorite who came back, and she actually plays a lot better.
Kids, Eric, come on.
Cassie Cage was the only one I actually really enjoyed playing. Takeda was probably my least favorite, and just because of his attitude, Kung Jin was another one I just didn't care for. But Jackie actually, her play style plays different than her father, Jax, and she is a lot of fun actually once you get going with her. So they fixed pretty much everybody in Mortal Kombat X that had a little bit of issues fighting wise. They actually found them a place where they fit as far as their fighting style.
That's awesome. Well, that's all the questions I have for those. I mean, I'm anxious to play more Division 2. I want to play some Mortal Kombat, but I feel like I got to go back and play the story. I gotta do it the right way. So thanks to both of you for stopping in and chatting about these awesome games. And if you want to check out more, obviously you can hear us weekly on the Next Level podcast. It's on iTunes and Google Play and all that kind of good stuff. Next month, we're going to have a big game with, which I'm kind of sad we didn't get to sit down today. It kind of came out a little late, but Days Gone. Rage 2 is going to be next month, and so we should have some fun. So thanks everyone for tuning in here, and we'll see you on the next level.